Welcome to Let's Turn the Tide podcast, brought to you by Veolia. I'm your host, Nadine Zidani, sustainability and climate activist, consultant and a coach, and I'm very excited to invite every stakeholder to join us in discussing climate and environmental issues while shining a light on the solutions. With this podcast, our mission is to create awareness in the Middle East region and help you to take action. So let's dive in and turn the tide together. So, did you know that food systems are responsible for a third of global greenhouse gas emissions? I believe it's now time to take action, and that's exactly why we are here today all together. And we will specifically deep dive into two specific topics, which are food security and food waste. And to do so, I'm very, very happy to be surrounded by amazing guests. And I'm going to start with you, Marie-Therese Laguerre. You are the Marketing and Strategy Director for Veolia Near and Middle East. Yes. Welcome, Marie-Therese, on the podcast.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for having me.
William Ward, you're the Regional Director, Middle East Africa for Green Eco Technologies. Welcome, William.
Thank you very much for having us.
And Amna Elfour, you are the co-founder of Bestby, an e-commerce platform fighting food waste. Welcome, Amna.
Thank you so much, Nadine.
So let's start by your personal story. I really want to know more how you came into food security and food waste. I think you must have a very fascinating journey behind it. And I really want to ask you all the same question. I'm going to start with you, Marie-Therese. Can you tell us more about your personal story and why it matters to you?
Yeah, for sure. I was born and I grew up in Senegal, Africa. So coming to food security, lack of food, I might know a little bit about it. Even though you are not confronted directly, personally to it, you see around you all over the day someone lacking of food or not being able just like to sustain himself for days and days. For me, it was something like it's part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. I know that we can't not waste food. We should not, because a lot of people are missing of it all around the world.
Yeah. And what about Veolia? If I want to link that to the work you're doing right now, how can you explain us that?
Oh, in a more just like professional way, I think that, and it's maybe what stick me so long with Veolia. It's the fact that we are bringing solution. We are bringing solution to things that I've seen, that I've personally lived with. Going back to my just like childhood, having days and days and days without having water. Not because you were not able to just like pay it or whatever, because just we didn't have access to it. You were opening your tap and there was no water for days and days and days. I remember my mom, keeping from getting out from work, trying to just like to organize ourselves to just have water stock somewhere within the house. And it was not a matter of being able to have it. It was just like, just like stop of distribution of water. So Veolia for me, it was just like the solution. It was where I was just like coming back home and saying, oh my God, I would love to have Veolia in Senegal so that I'm sure that we'll just like have water all day long. And for me, it's just like that thing of being able to bring solution for people, for population, and bringing something that is contributing to everyone else, and that's it for my. It's something about health, about wealth, about just enjoying your life, and without thinking of tomorrow will I have water, tomorrow will I have food.
Well, that's amazing, and now you're making an impact by the work you're doing. So
it's great waking up every morning and having that in mind. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Marie-Therese. What about you, William?
Yes, I came from a background of providing services into the hotel industry, which led into assisting with energy management of all things. People burning too much energy. And I was introduced to this solution about 5 years ago. And for me, I thought to myself, I hadn't really looked at the impact of food waste. but over the last 5 years, the impact is immense. It's becoming more and more. It's actually, people think plastic is the issue. Food waste is a massive problem, and particularly in this region. So my focus now is on the GCC region and the amount of food waste that goes on here, but to have a system or a solution that can take that food waste and repurpose it to a better use. And we do get very passionate about, how we do it and what we do. And we just, that's it. And it's the same, you get up in the morning and you want to just do the right thing. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as you said, we talk so much about plastic and definitely not enough about food waste, especially in this part of the world.
Correct. So. Yeah, plastic just seems to be the go-to. Yeah. Yes, save the plastic, but food waste is the biggest problem. So,
Amazing. Amna, I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you must have an amazing story behind Bestby.
Well, I think I do. So I grew up in a house where food waste was not allowed. We never wasted anything. So whatever doesn't get eaten today, you will either eat it tomorrow or some other day in the week. And that's actually been our Ramadan so far. We're very focused on not wasting food. I'm from Sudan and I grew up in different countries. So I grew up in Kenya, in Jordan and Indonesia, and we eventually settled here. And throughout my experience as a kid, I always noted the contrast between someone not having enough to eat in a day and someone throwing away a perfectly edible meal.
Yes.
And as I grew up and I did my bachelor's degree in environmental engineering, I started to see and learn that food waste isn't just a social, heartbreaking issue. It's an environmental one. So after graduating, I sort of felt equipped and more capable. I always knew that I was never going to be 100% ready or able to do something about it, but it's a matter of you start and then you learn as you go. And that's when I joined forces with my best friend turned co-founder, Severa, and that's what we do now. We do our best.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story. It's very insightful and tells a lot, about your purpose and what you're trying to achieve.
Thank you.
I want to start by food security because I really feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the topic emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic and because of the disruption of the global supply chain.
Yes.
So suddenly it became, a very hot topic and strategic topic for every nation. And even here in the UAE, where we have the National Food Security Strategy 2051, a lot of initiatives, ongoing. But at the same time, when we look at, and we had this discussion, Therese, together, when we look at the rating of the UAE globally, it's not that bad. I think we are somewhere like 23 out of 113 countries, which when I looked at it, I'm like, it's okay. I feel it's an issue, but is that a strategic issue? And I really want you, to explain us what's the real concern behind it, behind food security. And especially you've been traveling around the world, so you have a vision of the region and as well, the rest of the world. If you can, a bit elaborate, Therese, on that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Nadine. In fact, when you are looking, and you are right, to the Global Index Food Security, it seems that, there is no issue for the UAE around food security, which is not completely false. It's quite right that when you talk about accessibility, availability, affordability, it's quite good. We are not that bad. This region is not that bad. Better than France or even though Ireland when it comes to availability, it's quite the same than Ireland when it comes to affordability. But it just drastically drop when you come to sustainability and just adaptation to climate change. Because in fact, what we in Europe we did a lot is securing our infrastructure to make agriculture available. And then when you are in Europe or Western Europe countries, they are around 70 for the lowest one to 90 for the highest one. And that make a big difference. What does it mean? And this is still an issue then for this country. It's just it's not about having the infrastructure for farming and even though for the prices or being able to adjust the prices to the economic shock that might happen. It's more about being able to adapt that country to that extreme weather and to the just like the fact that it might really impact a lot, even more than everywhere else around the world, the agriculture infrastructure. So the big work for me is still to have those infrastructure being able to manage the crisis, the environmental crisis that they will just like come more often than we were used to. And for me, it's all about the infrastructure being able to secure water reuse, for instance. How does people can think that you can't just like use or reuse water for your agriculture? I think that in the past, our just like elders used to do that. It's not because they were stupid. It's because it made sense. It just like made such a basic sense of reusing water, because we all know that that reused water is bringing something else to the soil. And it's the way it should work and go back to our basics. I think that we should go back to our basics and go back to what the elders used to do and rethink it, and maybe use our technologies and everything we now have as a new knowledge to just leverage that and just go further and secure that food. It's even more than the food security, because behind that food security, just think about kind of political, economical, geopolitical, just like a security.
And it becomes then, a nation, risk, basically, and it can lead to disasters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are seeing it in other parts of the world. When people are just like starving, they are leaving. They are leaving their countries. It's not because they want it. It's just because that it's at a point, the only way they see to survive. And people just like, taking kids, taking women, taking men to go somewhere else. I think that it's mainly because somewhere your stomach is talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that, on the table, because whenever we talk about climate change or, food-related issues, we never think about, wars and what can happen, the global, geopolitics that behind it, and that can lead to, unfortunately, sad events. Thank you so much for that. I really want to give you the floor, Amna and William, on food waste, because as you said, Amna, we are, in the holy month of Ramadan. Food, is taking a big space, in our lives. I'm seeing as well that more and more food waste is coming into the picture, I see a lot of CSR initiatives around food waste, a lot of talks, campaigns. But where do we stand right now? Can you give us, the current state of, the food waste issue in the UAE?
Well, we can see that if we looked at it, around 3.27 million tons of food are wasted annually in the UAE, which is quite shocking.
Wow.
And on a consumer level, we have one of the highest values at 197 kilograms per person per year. I know you mentioned Ramadan, so if we noted that around 38% of food is wasted in the UAE, that number shoots up to 60% in Ramadan. And Ramadan is about reconnecting spiritually, and it promotes simplicity and moderation, and sadly, that's not what we see. Of course, being that we see different cultures, and to many cultures, to many people, Ramadan is an opportunity to cook more and to share. But unfortunately, we see the different aspect of, while a lot of it is driven by good values, unfortunately, food waste is inevitable.
It's really shocking figures that you just gave us. What do you want to add to that, William?
I think I want to go back to the food security piece first.
Sure.
And I think that's where it starts. The UAE are doing some wonderful work on what I call homegrown produce, because so much is imported. And you're seeing more and more things like hydroponic farms. You're seeing more, but it's such a the harsh environment that they're trying to grow produce in. So it's finding the produce that can grow in this environment is one thing, but we see it so many times. The amount of produce that is grown but doesn't get as far as the consumer. I'm going to blame it on all governments, okay? Not anyone in particular, but if they don't stipulate, and the biggest problem is the supermarkets, and the supermarkets want the beauty parade of the tomato has to be this round and this colour red and this, otherwise, and they're dictating to the farmers, to the growers, what that produce should look like. Now, I'm sure if you have, dare I say, an ugly tomato and a pretty looking tomato and you chop it up, it's going to taste exactly the same. But tons and tons of, as you said, 38% of wastage. There's so many tons, and we see it from production companies that doesn't get to the packing and gets destroyed. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go to developing nations or underprivileged countries. It gets destroyed. And they're looking at us for solutions to repurpose that food waste when it is perfectly usable food waste. So it's the supermarkets are a challenge, and something has to be done from that point of view. But it has to come from above, as with all these innovation or not innovation initiatives, to drive down the food waste before it even gets to the buffet to become on the plate, and then it becomes another challenge.
Yeah.
And as you say, with Ramadan, it probably doubles in the food waste. We used to work on a principle of, if you look at, say, from a kitchen preparation to going into the buffet or a la carte or onto the plate, on average, it was 1.25 to 1.5 kilograms per person per day. Statistics say that's gone up to 2.7 kilograms per person per day.
Wow.
It's just in food waste. Now, that's a lot. And
too much.
especially in this region where you may have staff accommodations for 5,000 people, you can do the numbers. And we just see pure edible food being destroyed.
And listening to you, I feel like we have different levels of food waste because, from the supermarket, from the farmers. I mean, it's a very it looks like a very complex issue.
It is. And unless somebody, we had a similar discussion like this with a government minister. And I said, if you don't start implementing some sort of legislation that says you can't dictate to the farmers, and it puts pressure on the farmers as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of, we have to produce, it has to look like this, has to look like this. When it's chopped up, who really cares? As long as it tastes like a tomato or like a carrot. But sad, we see so much of it. And we have the data to back that up as to what actually gets. And as you say, then it goes down down the food chain that, it ends up in the kitchen. You get the waste from that, it ends up in buffets, doesn't get eaten, ends up on the plate, it doesn't get eaten. And it's continuous.
Just to add on that,
Yeah, please.
I think that everyone has to do his part. Us as consumers, just like as consumers, saying, "Okay, I don't care if my tomato is not round," and it's our duty to put pressure maybe on supermarkets and say, "Okay, your perfectly round tomato, I don't want it. I just want the produce that came from the farm to my place." The second one, I think that the local authorities has to do their part. And you are right.
Yes.
It comes with regulation. When something is forbidden by law, people are doing it because at the end of the day, they know that it can hurt or their pocket or something even worse. So they are more conscious. And we, as just like companies, as a innovative person, we are doing our part. We are coming with solutions, with technical solutions, with social solutions, and it's just like something that has to be a kind of a holistic thing. If we come to that holistic thing, I think that we can just like change a little bit more, a little bit faster what has to be done.
The challenge you have as well, it's so cheap to throw it away.
Yeah.
the cost of taking it to the landfill where it's ending up, which is where the problem is, it's so cheap, people say, oh, just throw it away. That's the problem. So whether it's legislation, whether it's a taxation, they have to start looking at increasing the landfill costs, or as they call it, the gate fees, to then people will start looking at, how do I reutilize? It's not then become a food waste. How do I reutilize it? How do I maybe not produce so much? Why should I cook this much rice or this much this just to throw it away? And start thinking about it, because it just gets thrown. So. And that can only come from maybe a government level to increase, let's call it taxation.
And to add to that as well, I think the public sometimes has this misconception about what it means for a food item to be ugly or for a food item to be close to expiry. Given that we deal with near expiry items, with Bestby, we try to highlight that and add value back to it. And we see that a lot of people just straight up think it's rotten or it's inedible. And that if you're introducing a solution, I also think supermarkets and businesses have to educate and kind of try to debunk these myths before introducing solutions, given that the market might not be ready yet for that. In the UAE, I think around 85% of food is imported, and that leaves suppliers with a lot of food that doesn't get sold in time. Correct. And it approaches its expiry. And I know you mentioned taxing or charging for disposing of food, and some food suppliers are charged municipal fees, but again, it's a matter of, is it enough?
It's not enough. It's too low.
Not to do that.
The cost is too low. Let's call it a penalty, or to penalise them. It's the same with anything. If it affects them financially, they will look at something to reduce that waste. And I also think date stamps have brought one of the biggest challenges, the sell-by dates and things like this. I remember my mum used to say, "Oh, the cheese, I'll just cut the end off the cheese. That's fine." You know, but the date stamps have also, you know.
Feeling we have, and you touched upon, all of you, the policies, regulations, and I want to give it a broader context because the UAE is hosting COP28, as you know. COP27, we're seeing more and more kind of space given to food systems, transformation, discussion, and finally linking things together, as you rightly said, Therese. So what can we do? How COP actually can be a good forum, summit, to start, having this kind of conversation that we are having now and help us make progress. Do you think that we're doing enough? How? Yeah.
I think COP, whatever number, you could just replace it with lip service, because all of the big ministers come into town for 3 or 4 days, but what actually gets done off the back of COP26, COP27, COP28? I remember COP26 2 years ago in Scotland. What's come out of COP26 that's been implemented? I don't see anything. COP28, we're in the year of sustainability. It's got to, again, come from a high level to say, right, okay, let's come together as a group. And what do we do about this? Because if it doesn't get driven from there, we can all here do our little piece. Everybody can do their little piece. Everybody's aware of it, but it's got to come from a high level as well.
Yeah, in light of COP28 being in the UAE, just last month, Her Excellency Mariam bin Mohammed Al Maheri, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment, announced the government's plan to have some government and some private entities, including some restaurants and catering companies, to source, I'm going to read the stat, to source 50% of 10 basic food items, like chicken, eggs, dates, green leaves, tomatoes, etc. And then the goal is to increase that to 70% by 2025 and ultimately to 100%. I can say from my experience in Bestby, and we had a lot of customer discovery journey, and we visited a lot of restaurateurs and spoke to so many individuals here. And one restaurant, an example who's doing their part, is a restaurant here in Dubai. It's called Table in Jameel Art Center. And the concept is sustainability, but authentic sustainability, from the construction to the menus to the utensils. And from that, we learned that a majority of their food items are actually sourced locally. They get their salt from Abu Dhabi, they get their corn from Sharjah. And that was very impressive for us to see, because that's when we learned that the government, it does support local farmers and supports their endeavors and innovative solutions. I think in a platform like COP28, if we were to speak a bit more globally, again from Bestby, is what I can offer. One program that we were part of was Greenpreneurs, which is hosted by the Global Green Growth Institute. And that program actually fosters and supports and funds entrepreneurs globally. And any entrepreneur or individual with a solution to fight climate change can be supported, and that solution can be implemented and scaled globally, and they will help them find a fit internationally. So given that this is a year of sustainability, again, from an entrepreneurial point of view and what can be done to support people with solutions, we can see that there are a few programs like Shura and Sharjah or the Mohammed bin Rashid Innovation Fund in Dubai, among many others. In Abu Dhabi, one thing that we have, which is a great incentive, is the Social Impact Certificate, which MAN provides, and that allows you to get funded. It helps you with co-working spaces and the Golden Visa eventually.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're really supported in this journey.
Yeah, I will say that, yeah.
On the COP28, I think that I agree with William at the point we need just more affirmations, just like really take, I would say, commitments, real commitments. One was taken in Paris for the COP21, and everyone remember about the COP21 because one big statement, one big commitment was taken. Doesn't mean that we are there, but everyone got in mind that 1.5 degree more is something crazy, and no one want to go there. We should take the same commitment for that COP28. Again, William, you're right. It's too easy, too cheap to pollute. We have to make pollution more expensive, much more expensive than depolluting. Because whenever we will come to the fact that when you pollute, at a point you will just like spend more money, believe me, any company, anyone will think about the other way. So today it's kind of when you are doing something good economically, it doesn't count. It is taken like the good side effect, something like that, you know. But whenever we will be able on account to put numbers on the things that are done in the right way and put a money wage on that, people will make the effort. But as long as it doesn't count, or it's just like, oh, good feeling, oh, we did it great, oh, you did it great, for most of the people, it's like, okay, for now, I've got a P&L, and let's look at the P&L.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we have a long road, you know.
Yeah.
To reach,
Unfortunately, but I think that here we've got just like people that are just committed, and we just need more and more people to be committed to that. The population awareness around population. We need to people to get in consideration that there's no planet B, there's no option B, and we are here. Just do it here first. Do it here.
Awareness is the big thing.
Yeah.
It's from the youngsters through. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And all of you are bringing solutions actually to those issues in a way or another, and very innovative solutions. So now that you gave us like a very good picture of, you know, what's going on and where do we stand right now, I really want to give you, you know, the opportunity to voice a bit more about what you do and how you are contributing and making an impact for your company and the services that you provide. Can we start by you, Amna?
Absolutely. So I'm the co-founder of Bestby, and Bestby is a marketplace that aims to reduce food waste. And we do that by connecting everyday consumers and restaurants with food suppliers. Again, food suppliers are the ones with the excess food items that they can't sell off. So we saw an opportunity there. And we work with food distributors, suppliers, catering companies, meal planning and delivery companies, anybody who has food waste, we help take that off their hand and sell it at discounted items. Like I mentioned, my co-founder and I are environmental engineers. And to us, it's very important to measure our impact in tangible figures. So we set off and we created a carbon footprint calculator specifically for the UAE. So we looked into data from the UAE, literally Abu Dhabi statistics, UAE National Communication Report, any historical landfill use data. All of that is available on UAE's open data portal, bayanat.ae. And that calculator is embedded in our website. So because near expiry food items have such a negative connotation to them, we try to add value back to it. So first you see a product and you see that it's discounted, but you also see its subsequent carbon dioxide equivalent.
Okay.
So every purchase you make, you're kind of aware of what you're doing, and we try to add value back that way. We're in a very exciting stage right now. We just had our soft launch, and we're planning on hard launching by mid-May. We have a big goal of saving 5 tons of food by December of this year. And we invite everybody to visit our website and check our social media pages out and see how they can contribute to that as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
for the
much.
launch.
Thank you.
So any resident, like I'm a UAE resident, I can be one of the user of your
Absolutely.
platform?
It's bestby.ae. Just go on there and just shop. You can also read about our journey, how we document, how we created our calculator. Everything you need to know is there. And then you can just go to shop now and start ordering.
Amazing, I'll do. What about Green Eco Technologies?
So Green Eco Technologies was formed having looked at what's in the marketplace for repurposing food waste. There's waste of water, which water is an unbelievably valuable commodity and can be very expensive with the desalination. So why would you want to use water to send the food then into the drainage system? So that's a challenge. There's other systems out there. So we looked at what was available, and we have a unique technology that has a patent. It's a global patent. We do not use water. We don't use high heat. We want to retain the value in that, believe it or not, waste.
Okay.
We say don't waste your waste. And the way we do it, the technology is that we remove the pathogens that can be created. We actually do reduce the volume of the food waste, but we end up with what we call a residue that has a value. It has a value in different parts of the world. It has a very high calorific value, so it can be used as a fuel for creating green energy. Also as well, it has a very strong nutrient value because you've destroyed all the nasty elements. So it can then go back in the soil, or in this case, it's predominantly desert that you're trying to grow produce in, and we put nutrient back in the ground. So if you look at what we're doing, we're taking food waste from the kitchen, from the after-service waste. It goes through our system. We're a 24-hour rolling process. The residue then goes off to the organic farms. They put it back in the soil. They grow more produce. It goes back in the kitchen. It ends up on the plate. It goes in the waste master. And now we've closed the loop. So we are also now working in conjunction with various universities, other proteins, even fish feed, things of this nature. So it's being repurposed. The key is zero goes to landfill. Now, if you ask anybody what's causing all these emissions, people say, oh, it's the aircraft, it's this. Food waste is one of the biggest. The carbon, the methane, which is 25 times worse than the carbon, okay? And then what's called the leaching of all that horrible, nasty element, which can end up in the water table. But again, food waste compacted combust, so it is a challenge. And for the market, for hotels, hospitals, universities, here in this region, as we come into the summer period, that food waste has to be removed every day because they can't leave it on site, it can't be stored. Our product, when it's finished, is a storable material because we've removed all the elements. We've reduced the volume, so we can give you experience of clients where they were paying for the food waste to be removed every day. We now only go there twice a month. So you also remove trucks off the road, less carbon for the trucks, and that's basically what we do.
Well, that's an amazing solution. Is it? Who do you work with? I guess
hotels, hospitals, universities, catering companies, airlines, military. With those guys have to be fed. So the military bases, local governments, anybody that's producing staff accommodation, anyone that's producing a volume of food waste. But we also have a software integration, so we can give exactly the data. If you ask anybody how much food waste you have, they, I don't know. At the end of the day, daily, weekly, monthly, we can tell them exactly how much food waste they have. We can tell them where it's come from, which food and beverage outlets come from, so they can then go back and go, data is valuable. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yes.
So to be able to go back and say, why are we producing this much food waste? Talk to the executive chefs and things like this, and then start to take that data and use it wisely to reduce the food waste.
And do you see food waste decreasing by having this conversation and sharing the data?
Yes, in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
The hotels have to get their head around that fine line between giving a service. If it's a 5-star hotel, for instance, they feel that the guest wants to see a mountain of food on the buffet. But the amount that you see destroyed that's edible, the amount you see that is cooked in the kitchen and doesn't even reach the buffet. And it goes straight into our system. But so once you have that data available, then it starts to open their eyes to how much, because now it's just going in with the general waste and they don't see it. It just goes in a plastic bag or into a skip, ends up in the landfill, and they have no idea. But when they start to see the volume, and that also can end up on their bottom line. Why did we buy so much? Why did we produce so much? We can still give a service without that.
Data can be very motivating.
It's
Awareness
It's
of
a
the
very
You
problem.
start
powerful-
questioning, actually.
It's
the
very
way you-
powerful. And it can even change menus because you see a trend of a constant and then all of a sudden you see a spike and the spike is due to the menu is not as attractive and they change the menu and they can bring it down. So,
That's amazing. What about Veolia, Marie-Therese?
Veolia, we are, when it comes to everything around environmental issue, we are trying to have that 4R process. First, we have to reduce. Whatever we do, we have to reduce it. Regarding water, regarding chemical fertilizer, regarding energy, regarding plastic on the food chain, whatever, reduce is the first thing to do. Then we have to reuse water, food from methane, we can do energy. So when you can have compost, this is just like the perfect, what they are doing is just like the perfect compost that you might have. You can just like reuse the energy because everything that is just like fatal heat can be reused to just like reheat or recool something else and just like reuse the carbon. Even the carbon, you can reuse it. We can reuse it for instance, all the still or not sparkling water that sometimes you can just like reuse that carbon for that. It has to be just like the clean one, but it's still carbon that is there. Recycle the food waste. Recycle the food waste, please. Fatal energy, again, plastic, sludge, remove. And then we have to remove. Because at the end of the day, it should stay just like such a little thing to remove, but we still have to remove what has to be removed, and it can't be our carbon emission first. We have to remove our carbon emission. So, yeah, that's the technology we are hardly working on, making it the faster and the quicker on the market as possible. But yeah, all our innovation are highly oriented about carbon emission, carbon capture, because it's part of the solution. But the first three are the first to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been at the forefront, actually, of the new technologies and finding the solutions.
Absolutely. We're trying, we're doing our best, and that's why it's that amazing to be part of that company and living that journey.
I can imagine.
My colleagues.
So I guess, I loved, hearing from you the solutions and the passion and what you're bringing to the table. I guess you might be facing a lot of challenges, let's be honest. So I really want you to share with me, not the long list, because I'm sure you have a very long list of challenges. But what's the most, the biggest challenge you're facing right now, to really fulfill your mission and make an impact? Amna, if
I
you
can
want to start.
start.
If you want to start.
I mean, being that Best Buy is my first endeavor in the business world, especially diving into the F&B industry, it's a bit more traditional, and you can sense that some of the processes are a bit more manual. So when we try to introduce a solution like ours, which is digital and highly innovative and like new, while food suppliers and a lot of people in the industry want to fight food waste, it's hard for them to prioritize building the capacity to meet you where you are or to help support you. So, oops. So that kind of puts more of a load on us, not only to build our solution and do our part, but to also build capacity on their end and help them bridge that gap and meet us where we need them to meet us. Being young entrepreneurs as well, I think, and in that industry as well, sometimes Sabira and I, anybody who meets us together, we can come off quite excitable and passionate. And
which is great.
I mean, we love it, but in this industry specifically, that passion sometimes can be mistaken for an invitation for unsolicited mentorship. And when you're trying to conduct a business deal, it's not appropriate and it's not warranted. So I would say that's one of our challenges for sure.
Interesting. I guess it's part of the
Comes with
journey
the
of an
package.
entrepreneur.
Yeah, we deal with it. It's okay.
What
I think
about you?
the passion also brings the energy. And
Yes.
if you haven't got the energy,
Yeah.
and it all takes our energy to make it move forward. But for us, first of all, mindset. A change in mindset is one of the biggest challenges, because historically, we just throw the food waste in a plastic bag, or it goes into a skip, but it ends up in a landfill. And why should we change? The other thing is the cost of landfill. Because it is so cheap, they will continue to do that. And if they overproduce, they can buy their food at X. If you look at a buffet and a fixed price buffet, they have to show a mounted of food for some reason, but what it's cost them, and then if there is over, as far as they're concerned, it's so cheap to throw it away to the landfill. What's it? So the mindset and the cost, bring them together. What we are seeing, some of the biggest champions for us is what we call the stewarding teams in hotels, or the guys that go around picking up the food waste, because we create a sterile environment. There's no more yucky food waste. There's no more odors. There's no, the food waste is being controlled. It's going into a system, and for them, it's making their life easier. And they become our champions, because they then go back to the kitchens and say, you have to do this properly. You have to do this, because they're seeing the output. And to be honest, it takes a few weeks for them to get into that mode of doing something in a different way. You still get knives and forks and spoons go in, but fortunately our system is robust enough that it comes out the other side. But yes, the mindset and the cost of current disposal is the problem.
And do you see an evolution in the mindsets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Once they adopt and they see it, for us, training a 15-person team in a hotel takes about 25 minutes to train a whole team. And I say it's a bit like karaoke. When you've trained them, you say, right, come and try, and nobody wants to try. And then all of a sudden, okay, now we all want to have a go. It's like they get the mic and everybody wants to sing, but they love it. Once it's implemented, they love it. So, yes.
Amazing. What about your challenge?
Our challenge. I might come back to that price of pollution. Agree. So people are most of the time not ready to pay for the price that all our technologies we are bringing. They want to pay 4-star, 5-star tech and pay it for 2-star. It doesn't work. So we have to accept and understand that this transformation will be quite costful. From a personal perspective, we need a plan Marshall. We need definitely a Marshall Plan for our ecological transformation. It's no more about transition. We have to do the transformation.
Yeah, I agree.
That comes down with mindset as well, like not wanting to pay for what you should pay
Exactly.
for.
Exactly.
It's also very difficult to put a value on cleanliness. To have, what was a very nasty you've seen plenty as well. The what they call the waste rooms are they're horrible. They attract all the wrong attention. To have a clean environment like that, how do you put a value on it? The hotel or the organisation have to put their own value on the cleanliness. But then you've got all the other aspects, the ESG elements, and what it means to them, and especially if they're a global brand. And if you look at hotels, they want guests now are looking. I'll go to that hotel because they're sustainable, or they're trying to promote local produce and things like this. So that the younger generation are also looking at that, and they want to go to a resort or a hotel that's shown to be sustainable as well. So it will affect them in their marketing as well.
And speaking of ESG and the younger generation, a figure I came across recently by KPMG was that 1 in every 3 young professionals will turn down a job if the company has low ESG ratings.
Yes. Yes.
So while it feels like an option right now, it is an expectation for future generations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's good. We're going to put pressure on companies to start the transformation. Talking about transformation, I wanna talk about the survey conducted by Veolia. So Veolia did a very interesting actually survey across 25 countries, 5 continents, to assess the readiness, people's readiness to the ecological transformation. And what I liked about the survey is that we have some data for the UAE, and I was quite surprised by some of them. I just want to give you a couple of figures. 55% don't know about the development of urban agriculture. 50% don't know about using treated wastewater to irrigate crops in safe way. And for me, the most surprising, 65% stated they would be ready to reduce their meat consumption. That was for me the most shocking one. So having that in mind, I'm thinking what steps can we take to involve the citizens of the UAE and the broader region to kind of shape a different narrative around, the ecological transformation and really include them in this transformation.
It was surprising even for me that barometer, because I think that the population, the people are much more ready than we think they are. They are ready to make the effort to just like preserve themselves, preserve their kids, preserve their grandkids. I think that none of us would like to have the grandkids coming one day and saying, this is your fault. No one want that. So we are all ready to make that little effort for coming to urban agriculture, just like connected to data. For me, it's something that can make a real change, because it's kind of a quite tiny local production for people that you can just like, give the right amount of food to the right person at the right moment. It's what we need. So if we want to reduce that waste, we have to develop those kind of things. We have to use other way of using just like drinking water for something that is not for drinking. And it's called drinking water. Just like use it for what it is called and nothing else. After that, I think that we have to make more things with kids. We have to make these things being their standards. And if it became their standards, there will be workers with those standards. There will be leaders with those standards. And it will be so natural.
It becomes the new normal.
And it will be the normal thing. And we have to go to this being the normal thing. Because this is the normal thing. The other ways is not the normal thing.
You're absolutely right.
And that's one of our biggest frustrations. Valuable drinking water is for drinking. To use it to mash up with food waste and wash it into a drainage system is just unacceptable. Okay, but you're right. I think the awareness at school children level, getting the message out, they're much more aware than you realise, and they're becoming, and they're seeing it. But it's just the whole awareness program. What we're doing here around this table is just literally a drop in the ocean compared with what's got to be done all the way across.
I agree. I think awareness is key. One thing we realized that if we want our solution to work, we have to speak the language of parents in the kitchen, chefs in the restaurants, someone learning to cook, a student in a dorm. It's about reminding everybody that sustainability is at the tips of their fingers. It's not for a category of people, it's for everybody.
I think the data is key as well.
Data. Yeah.
And when you show someone, it depends on how they look at it. If they're not paying the bill, then I'll let somebody else worry about it. But to see that data of how much food waste is, I think just in the last couple of months here alone, we've repurposed 70 tons of food waste.
Wow.
And that's only across a couple of small sites. 70 tons
That's
of
huge.
pure edible food. Now, how many people could that feed? So, it's that data is very, oh, really, I didn't think we had that much. So
That shock really helps.
it does,
Yeah.
it does.
I hope the podcast, will help spread the word and
I'm sure. Yes.
and create some awareness. So the name of the podcast is Let's Turn the Tide. And we want to end the podcast with always the same question to our guests, which is, given the urgency to combat climate change, what's the one action that we can take to turn the tide? One action.
Definitely reduce, reuse. Reduce and reuse. We have to reduce. We have to reuse everything. Everything.
Anything we do.
Anything that is the earth resource.
Okay.
We have to reduce and we have to reuse.
I guess we call it reduce and repurpose because we repurpose. You will never eliminate food waste in its entirety. We understand that. But reduce the food waste, but what food waste you have, repurpose it for something valuable, whether it's generating energy, whether it's going back into the soil to create more produce. Don't let it go to the landfill because that's the biggest challenge.
Thank you.
I mean, I have the same answer, but I will just add that everybody should just realize what their own capacity is,
Yes.
and your action should be proportionate to your abilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use smaller plates.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it was
Thank you,
a
Nadine.
very, insightful and enlightening discussion. And we learned so much, thanks to your expertise and the work you do and the solutions you're bringing to the UAE and to the region. So really, thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Nadine.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
If you found this episode useful and if you gained any new knowledge, please don't hesitate to spread the word by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting below. We would really appreciate hearing from you. And please stay tuned for our upcoming episode.